Morning guys, we're going to look at ion formation and ionic bonding, which is what you did earlier on in year 9 at the start of the year, around Christmas time. So a very quick reminder about a nuclear symbol. This is what you would see on a periodic table. So on your screen you can see sodium. If we look at the bottom number, that is our atomic number, and that tells us the number of protons. In a neutral atom, the number of electrons is exactly the same. I'm going to look at electrons later on this lesson. At the top, we have our mass number, and that tells us our number of protons and neutrons. So for sodium, we have 11 protons, 11 electrons, and 12 neutrons. For each individual element, the number of protons can never change. Sodium always has 11, carbon always has 6, oxygen always has 8. It is only the electrons and the neutrons that can never change. So ion formation. Every element except the noble gases can either lose or gain electrons to become something called an ion. They do this because they want to have a stable full outer shell, which means they either have to lose the outer electrons or gain electrons to fill it up. Noble gases already have a full outer shell, so they do not need to lose or gain any electrons. They never become an ion. So an ion is a charged particle. They can either be positively charged, they can be negatively charged, and it all depends if it is a metal or a non-metal. So on your screen you can see magnesium. You see in a magnesium atom we have 2 inner electrons, 8 electrons on the middle shell, and we have 2 on the final shell. Underneath the picture you can see the electronic structure written numerically, 282. So magnesium is going to lose those 2 electrons when it becomes an ion. It's a metal, so it will always lose electrons. Non-metals always gain electrons. Once it has lost those 2 outer electrons, the second shell that has 8 electrons is now full. So when it becomes an ion, we now draw them with a square bracket. You can see in the top right hand side we have the charge 2+. It is a positive because there are now 2 more protons compared to the number of electrons. We said at the start that a neutral atom has the same number of protons and electrons. The number of protons cannot change. It has not gained 2 more protons. It now just has 2 more compared to the number of electrons, giving it a 2+ charge. A non-metal will always have a negative charge because it has gained electrons. It now has more electrons compared to the number of protons, which gives it a negative charge. The number you can see is how many electrons it has either lost or gained. Your first task is to use the periodic table that I've attached to Teams and decide what charge are for these elements you can see on your screen. The first one, calcium, has been done for you. If you look at calcium on the periodic table, it's a metal, it's in group 2, so it's going to lose electrons. It loses 2 outer electrons, therefore becomes Ca2+. Pause the video, have a go at this task, and then carry on. Ionic bonding. Ionic bonding is one type of bonding that we looked at earlier on. It can only ever happen between a metal and a non-metal. This is why you need to know which side of the periodic table is your metals, the left, and your non-metals, the right. In an ionic compound, the ions are attracted to each other with a strong electrostatic force. So this is what a question might typically look like. You might not get the pictures already drawn down, and if you don't, I would suggest drawing them out so you know which atoms are transferring from where. So the diagram shows an atom of magnesium and an atom of chlorine. Describe in terms of electrons how magnesium atoms and chlorine atoms change into ions to produce magnesium chloride, MgCl2. You can see on your screen there that the magnesium has 2 outer electrons. It will need to lose those 2. Chlorine has 7 outer electrons. It is in group 7. That final shell can only accept 1 electron because the shell itself can only have 8 in total. We need to be aware of that when answering our question. Magnesium is our metal. It will lose electrons. Chlorine is our non-metal. It will gain electrons. So on your screen, you can see magnesium and chlorine already drawn out. As I've just said, chlorine can only gain 1 electron on the outer shell, which means we need to have 2 of them. So magnesium, it will transfer 1 of its electrons to 1 of the chlorine atoms. It will then transfer the other remaining outer electron to the other chlorine atom. If we were describing what we can see on our screen, a magnesium atom has lost 2 electrons. There are 2 chlorine atoms. Each atom has gained 1 electron. Bear in mind, I keep saying the word atom and ions. So now on your screen, you can see the 3 atoms involved, which are now ions once we've added our square brackets. The red electrons you can see on the chlorine are from the magnesium. So our magnesium, we add our square brackets and our 2+ charge because it has lost 2 electrons. Our chlorine is now a chloride ion. We have our square brackets and each chloride ion has gained 1 electron, which makes each of them a single negative charge. We cannot say it is Cl2-. We have to say Cl-. There are just 2 ions. So again, if we were describing this, we say the magnesium ion now has a 2+ charge. The chloride ion now has a negative charge. Notice the chlorine is now a chloride ion. Oxygen would become an oxide ion. Iodine would become an iodide ion. You need to be just very careful when you write down the names of your ions if they have changed. So let's go back to that original question. Describe in terms of electrons how magnesium atoms and chlorine atoms change into ions to produce magnesium chloride. We're just going to write exactly what we've gone through. A magnesium atom loses 2 electrons and becomes an ion with a 2+ charge. There are 2 chlorine atoms, each one of which gains 1 electron. Each chloride ion now has a 1- charge. When I'm writing these answers, I always follow the same structure. I talk about my metal first. How many electrons will it lose? What charge does it become? And then I talk about my non-metal. How many electrons has it gained? What charge is it? If either of the elements have more than one atom, you need to state it. So for example, in this question, the chlorine has 2. By following the same routine every time, I know that I shouldn't have missed anything. So your second task is to answer this question. Figure 1 shows the outer electrons in an atom of the group 1 element, potassium, and in an atom of the group 6 element, sulfur. You can see you've got your pictures there already. You can see how many outer electrons you have. So potassium forms an ionic compound with sulfur. Describe what happens when 2 atoms of potassium react with 1 atom of sulfur. Give your answer in terms of electron transfer. Give the formulae of the ions involved. So when it says give your answer in terms of electron transfer, that is referring to when an atom loses electrons or when it gains electrons. Give the formulae of the ions informed. So in the previous example, we spoke about magnesium becoming a 2+ charge and the chloride ions becoming a 1- charge. That is what it is asking for in the case of potassium and sulfur. Pause the video, have a go at this question, and then move on to the final task. Task 3. This question is about calcium. The figure below shows the electronic structure of an oxygen atom and a calcium atom. Describe how the calcium atom and the oxygen atom forms calcium oxide. You should give the charge on each ion formed. So you need to do exactly the same. Describe how the oxygen atom and the calcium atom become ions. Where have the electrons transferred from? Where have they transferred to? And then give the charge of each ion. Submit your answers via Teams for me by the end of the day. Thank you.